Hi everyone and welcome back to my War Games hobby channel. The game you're just about to watch, it's the first time I've played French and Indian Wars. Well, no, that's not strictly true. Let me explain. I've been playing Muskets and Tomahawks for some time now, and as you know, I really like the rules. And I've been mainly playing American War of Independence. I've never had any French and Indian Wars. A few of my friends have, so I decided to make some up. And I've just finished the French and the Indians, so I fancied a game with them, quite rightly so. Now, I didn't quite know how it was going to go, but if you look on the sheet, which you'll see here, there's the army I'm using. I'm using 10 French Marines, which are pretty good. And then I've got 2 units of 5 Courier de Bois. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing that correctly, but they're basically the guys that used to trade with the Indians, and they were very, very effective at forest warfare. And then 2 units of 6 Indians, each with the Indians have got a Sachem leader, and then there's an officer for the Courier de Bois, and a French Marine officer as well. So it's a very, very strong, very small but very strong. It's only 35 men, but they're all pretty good. But the biggest difference between that and which you're going to see in a minute, the army they're fighting, is that their aggression. The Courier de Bois and the Indians all have an aggression of 4. So they're really, really powerful close combat. The Marines are pretty good as well. They've got aggression of 5. Now, you remember that film, The Last of the Mohicans? I'm sure you've seen it. A fantastic film, I think. It portrays the war in North America very, very well, I feel. The militia that was raised to help the British fight the French and the Indians were pretty reluctant to leave their sort of the areas they were raised in, because of the threat of the Indian attacks on the homesteads and the farms on the border, sort of west around the Great Lakes and west of Albany. And it's true that in fact the British did want them to help the regulars a lot more, but they were reluctant to do so. And the film portrays pretty well what happens when some of the militia were sent to help defend Fort William Henry, and the Indians started attacking the settlers. And that's what I wanted to try and do in this game, because a big part of the war wasn't sort of the big battles that took part. Obviously Quebec's the biggest battle, but there were some sieges and there were some other battles as well. But there was a lot of fighting on the frontier between the French and the Indians invading and attacking the homesteads and the farms, and the local militia's job was to try and keep them safe. The regulars, the British regular army, didn't get too involved in that. It was left up to the militia to deal with that. So in this game, I've got this force of British colonial troops, and you'll see there's no British regular troops there at all. There are, in fact, 2 units of Rangers, which are pretty good. Their aggression, though, is 6, still not quite as good as the French side. But then we've got 2 units of 10 militia, and I've added 2 units of 6 provincial light infantry. But you'll see that their aggression is 7s and even 8s for the militia, so they're nowhere near as good in close combat. And to be honest, until we started the game, we didn't realise how important that was going to be, but you'll see in a minute how important that was, and how if the French side get in close combat, how much of an advantage they have. So I wanted to explain that we didn't really know quite what to expect here. Now, because I just finished painting these, the French and the Indians, the Courier de Bois and the Marines, I wanted to use them myself, obviously, because it's the first time they've been out. And also because that army was only 35 strong against 47 of the British colonials. Then there were 2 players on that side, so it was easier to split that army up between the 2 players. So my excuse for using the French wasn't the fact that they were great in close combat. I just wanted to use them because it's the first time I'd used those figures. So that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Right, so watch this game, and after the game is finished, I'll have a few more things to say about it. Okay, I hope you enjoy it anyway. It's only the highlights. I'm not doing the whole game. We're just going to see the highlights of what happened in the actual game. Right, so I'm playing in a game of Muskets and Tomahawks, and I think I need to explain what is going on here. As usual, I'm going to be doing highlights of the game later on, but in the meantime, let me explain what we're doing. If I can find my book. This is French and Indian Wars, and we've got the British in the village here, and they have to try and get the civilians off the table. And the British have got a ranger unit here of 12 men, which is very, very effective, or should be effective. They've got some provincial troops here with an officer, and they've got some militia facing the other way. And they have to get off the table. We've already done this bit. They have to get off over here or over here, exactly where the French have formed up with most of their troops. The attacking French have got a company of French Marines, which are regulars, over here. In the wood here are, I don't know whether I'm going to pronounce it correctly, but Canadian Courier de Bois. So they're pretty good skirmishers. And then we got some Indians coming through this wood here. And their objective is to try and kill off the civilians. On the gaming book, their game is that they're playing to is called Massacre. So they win if they kill at least half the civilians are dead or routed, and including the leader, and or they can kill all the civilians except for the leader. So some of the civilians are in that building, and the other civilians, are they in the other building? No, they're not. Oh, they're here. So they've got 5 in the building there, and the other 5 at the other side of the building. Or are they all in the building? Are they all in the building?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
No, these are not.
These are not, they're out the front. Okay. And as I said, the British have to try and get the civilians off the table here or over here, exactly where the French have most of their troops. So that's not going to be easy, but that's the fun of the game. Right, so we've started the first few moves. I'm not sure whose turn it is now, I've lost track because I've been doing another video, but we're going to make a go, and every so often I'll report back and let you know what's happening. Okay, a little update here. The Indians, as you can see here, opened fire on the Rangers that were coming across the field here, and we managed to kill 3 from 1 unit with rifles, and the other unit were okay. They fired back, but in fact, because I'm in a wood and in extended order, although they're in extended order as well, it was really hard to hit me, and they failed miserably. But now they've moved also behind this cover in the village. The reason they're moving over that way is because the civilians now, we do know where they've got to come off. They've got to come off over here or over here, exactly where all the French troops
They're being
are.
a bit brave, aren't they?
Oh dear, that's a bit tough. So they've been brave and brought their civilians out of that building, and along with the provincial light infantry, they're trying to force their way through this gap here.
Oh yeah, of course.
But you've got 2 units of Courier de Bois in the way. So that's going to be interesting in a minute. The militia have now moved from over there near that field. They're now coming this way through the pigsty.
Yeah,
Where the pigs are.
Yeah,
They belong.
they're not covered in any pig
That would slow you down a bit incidentally there, by an inch, but not much. But right, so there we go. That's where we are. Things are starting to happen, and we'll do another move, and I'll report back in a minute. Okay, a quick update. Quite a bit's happened. The Indians came out of this wood and charged the 3 surviving rifles that were here, Rangers, and they killed 2 and the other one ran away. And the Indians have now moved round, as you can see, and they're now quite near the other Rangers. This other Indian unit here, first of all, these opened fire on the Colonials that were coming through here, the provincials I mean, and then the Indians charge in. That unit's now gone, and the Indians lost two men. So at the moment, it's going very much the French way. So
I can't say that I'm disappointed with that because I like the French.
It's still early days.
It's still early days.
But at the moment, it's going the French way at the moment. So we'll just have to see if that continues or not. And it's the British turn. Right, these Indians here charged the Rangers that were here. The Rangers lost 4 men and had to flee. The Indians didn't lose any, so that's bad news. The other Indians here managed to kill 2 of the other troops over here, and they've had to run away behind that building. The civilians tried to do a crafty move and come around here and get off the table, but my French courier de bois, who are very, very, very powerful in melee, charged the civilians and killed half of them, and then the rest of them had to flee. So at the moment, I'm afraid it's a bit of a nightmare for the British side, the British and the Colonials, because the French have got their best unit that hasn't even come into the game yet. At the moment, it's all going my way, isn't it? I feel very guilty.
That's not good, Alec, especially after my game the other week.
You beat me, didn't you?
No, when I played Dom, I sat there and was very salty.
That don't count. Yeah, well, they got these militia. They haven't done anything yet. So when the militia come round, maybe they'll do something. But the point is, I've only got to keep killing these civilians. They can't win. They might well be getting behind that building or in it in a minute and try and defend them. I think it's very difficult now for the British side to win the game. I can't see them getting off the table. They're just now going to be playing for a draw because they just can't get off the table. I'm too strong. My Indians are really, really aggressive. They've got an aggressive value of 4, which really means anything they fight, they're going to cause a lot of damage, and they're close enough to do that now. So yeah, it's all looking rather
actually
one-sided at the moment. I have been quite fortunate with my dice rolling, which for me is a real change.
You get those civilians.
So it's the British
do that 2
to
turns
move.
in a row.
I'm going to give a quick update here because the militia are now holding the situation for the Brits. That's really all they got left. They've got 4 colonial troops in the middle there. Yeah, 4. And 2 Rangers and officer over there. And the rest of it's militia. The civilians at least are safe. They've managed to flee away from danger. But the trouble is the best unit on the table is now coming on over here. They haven't done anything yet. They don't need to because the Indians and the courier de bois are doing the damage. They've really been very aggressive. And I've been rolling well as well, which hasn't helped. So it's, as you can see, the losses here, we've lost a total of 6 on the French side. And I can't even count how many the British have lost over there because Ken's trying to hide them.
That's all right. I picked up a bargain. I'm happy.
So the game is all over. We've called it a day because the regulars came off that hill and they hit the rear of the militia that were there with the 3 officers nearby.
It would have been end of the game anyway because you killed the officer.
The officer. Yeah. The civilian officers died. Yeah, there's 5 civilians left running away. They're still fleeing.
Yeah.
But the only other unit on the table is here. Although we have got some rifles somewhere, they've gone off for a minute, but they were over there, but they weren't doing anything. But when the militia got hit in the rear, they lost all 5 men, and all 3 officers were standing there as well. They all died as well. So it's really,
it wasn't
really
great, was it?
Big game over, really. It was a bit of a...
It was good though, man.
A massacre, really.
It was nice to come down.
But it was, I didn't realise how good the French Canadians are in the French and Indian Wars, because all my figures are newly painted and I haven't used them before.
Yeah.
But they are seriously good in hand-to-hand combat.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, they're up against units. There's no British regular troops here. These are all irregular Rangers, militia, which are recruits, and provincial light infantry, which are also recruits. So they really, although they had the numbers, in the end, they just weren't up to the close to combat, were they?
We had the pot switch on.
It was a bit one-sided, really. Sorry about that, guys.
No, that's all right, mate.
Just
with the British.
I didn't realise how good they were going to be.
No, that's all right. Don't worry about
And
it.
I did roll well today,
Oh, you rolled very
which
well.
is not like me, as you know.
No,
I'm normally
no.
rubbish.
No, you rolled very well. No, it was good, mate. I enjoyed that.
Okay, well, thanks for the game, guys.
No, no problem.
And
You off now, Spike, are you?
give you another game sometime, and you can be the French next time.
Yeah.
Right, so a little bit one-sided, wasn't it? What did I say? That close combat. All right, it did help the fact that that night, unusually for me, I rolled really, really well. My dice rolling was amazing compared to what I normally do. And it also didn't help that my opponents didn't roll particularly well. They probably didn't use the right tactics, but then it's easier to say that in hindsight, isn't it? They tried to get the civilians off the table. In fact, that scenario that we use, which is for them, they had evacuation. That's a really hard scenario for the defenders, because it's unfortunate that they don't know where they've got to get off the table until the first red clock card comes up, and then it's up to the attackers to place them where they want. And obviously I placed them where my troops were, so it does seem a very difficult game for the defenders to win. You could argue they should have just maybe played for a draw and not tried to win it, but that's, you know, they went out and went for it, and they failed. But I must admit, it does seem a bit odd that the evacuation rules do state that it's the attacker that determines where the defenders get off the table, and that does seem a bit odd. It makes that very, very hard, and I wouldn't want to play that game. The French side had a much simpler target, and that's just basically to kill all the civilians, if there was many of them as they could. So it did make it rather difficult. But once they got close to each other, the French were always going to win that game. They were seriously powerful, and maybe the British and the militia and the provincials especially, well, even the rifles, they should have kept their distance. The Indians were in cover initially, so they did do damage to the rifles. I rolled really well for that, and they did a lot of damage in the first shooting. And then they were able to be shot at because they could have been seen then in the woods, but even so, they had cover. They would have been hard to kill, so it was very difficult for the Colonials to have won that game. It did get a bit too one-sided, and I hate that in a game, really. It's not much fun for those that are getting hammered, and it's, to be honest, not much fun for the people that are winning. And I did feel a little bit guilty, only a little bit, but it was very one-sided. So next time, I said, if they're prepared to play it again, I'll be the Colonial side, and they can be the French and the Indians, and see if they can get their own back. Anyway, it's worth showing. I hope you enjoyed the game. It was, say, a bit one-sided, but that's in fact how it often was in that war. There were some terrible atrocities done by the Indians and the French in there when they captured or attacked these settlers, and vice versa. I'm sure it was a really dirty war, which the French and the Indians were very, very good at. So there we go. I hope you found it useful and enjoyable to watch, and I'll see you again soon.